Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Limitless with Nadia. I can't even lie, you guys. This is probably the episode that I've been most excited to record because it's my brother. My brother is sitting next to me here. I'm going to be interviewing him. It's going to be so freaking amazing. Thank you for joining, Zane.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you excited to be here with your sister?
I am. And I want to start this before we start. I just want to say how proud I am of you.
Aww.
You know, how far she's come. There's a lot of stuff you guys haven't seen behind the scenes. Like the work that she's put in. I saw all of that before she moved to Florida. So it's really, really good to see how far she's come in this social media / influencing journey. So I'm proud of you, Nadia.
Thank you, Zizi. That means a lot. But honestly, the feeling is so mutual. Seeing how much you've accomplished at your age is honestly insane. And we're definitely going to get into that for this interview. But also something you guys should know is before I made it in social media, my brother actually fronted me an investment. He paid for something that he paid me $5,000 to be able to pay for something that I needed at the time for my business. So thank you for being so supportive and for always just being the person that I could come to about business stuff and everything. So anyways, fast forward past the sentimental stuff. I also want to let you guys know that a lot of the things that make me who I am in business, in life, in relationships, I've actually learned it from my brother. He's like one of those people, you know, there's like a trend on TikTok where it's like, you know, Zane knew who he was from a very young age. Like that totally describes my brother. Like it's almost like he was just born with like so much knowledge and like so many personality traits that have really made it easy for him to become super successful. You know, everybody I've ever met that has met you is obsessed with you. I've never met anybody that doesn't like you. So I think there's so much for us to learn about how to have influence, how to have charisma, how to, you know, have leverage even when it comes to like business deals or negotiations. So yeah, let's hop right in. I want to know, obviously you are 22 years old.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about your career. What have you been up to? What's the success looked like lately?
Sure. So I'll give a boring breakdown of everything that's happened in the last maybe 3-4 years. I started in school. You know, I went to college, George Mason in Virginia. I hate school, by the way. I can't stand it. I don't like, you know, how education is right now. I don't think it's really necessary for at least what I do, which is software engineering. So, you know, after I went to school, I got my degree. You know, I did all that nonsense. I got a job I was a software engineer for a small business working for a federal agency. So that was pretty fun. You know, I grinded that out for 3 years. And, you know, I did this all while I was really young. So I think I got my first job at, it might've been 20 or 21, doing federal contracting. And, you know, I slowly built leverage where I was working. And then, you know, me and 2 other guys, and this is a long story. This could be for a whole nother podcast, but essentially I built leverage where I was working. And, you know, over a few months of, you know, collaborating with 2 other guys on my team, we figured out a way to kind of force their hand into, you know, helping us or basically partner with us to start our own company as a subcontractor. So it's pretty stealth right now. Maybe in the future we can talk about, you know, more of the details, but it's still kind of stealth, but a very exciting journey. The next few years are going to be, you know, really crazy for me. So I'm really excited. And again, the person I go to for everything is my sister, and we bounce ideas off of each other, and we kind of, you know, give each other advice when needed. So
totally. Well,
that's the really boring breakdown. We can go more into detail about, you know.
Yes, I mean, I'm so proud of you. I mean, to have been in a position where you got your first job, right, and then not that long after, you're now basically working with all these men that are much older than you. They have a lot more experience than you. I'm sure that to a lot of people that might be intimidating, but I don't feel like you've ever really felt very intimidated in these big rooms with these big people that have a lot of authority. You know, you work in the government, so it's like there's a lot of seriousness around it. How do you not get intimidated?
Yeah, navigating that is pretty interesting, especially at a young age. You know, you go into a room and you assume everyone, oh, this kid doesn't know anything. That's where confidence comes in and knowing that you can get the task done or get the job done. So no matter what it is that you do, if you go in there with the right mindset, I think you can do anything and people will respect that.
Yeah.
You know, people respect results.
Right.
Right. So I was that guy that anytime there was anything really difficult, they would end up giving it to me. and it end up getting done. Like if there's a crazy bug or whatever it may be, I was always the guy that would come to get it done. And those results earned respect. So I ended up being, I don't really speak much when we're in the room, like a meeting, for example. But when I do speak, I feel like my message is well delivered. Opposed, sometimes there's other guys, they'll say stuff that's complete nonsense or doesn't have any relevancy. And then, they'll turn their head and then they'll ask like some other guys, like, me or my partners. And then,
so it sounds like something that's really important in order to be respected, I guess, and to have an impact with your presence is being selective about your words and your message and not just talking to fill the space. Cause that almost comes from a sense of nervousness, right? When you're like, and you just like word vomit everywhere. But when you're concise and you really know what you want to say and you're able to deliver it properly, that lands in a completely different way.
100%. And I think you lose aura when you over explain. Like when you over explain something, you start to lose aura and it's like, okay, let's move on.
You're doing too much.
Yeah, you're doing too much.
You're doing too much.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I think it's also really interesting because you mentioned that you're the guy everybody comes to when they need a problem solved. And you guys know how often I talk about your self-image and your self-beliefs because that's what manifests, right? The things that you believe to be true about yourself and your reality, that's what ends up becoming real. And so I think it's really what makes you so awesome is you do have that mentality of like, I don't have to have all the knowledge or the whole skill set to be able to accomplish something. I will always figure it out.
Exactly.
One way or another. And it's like that's why that works because you believe it, even though you don't, again, need it. You don't need the receipts or the proof that it's going to work, but it's like, eventually you'll be able to figure it out. And I think that's something that some people are kind of missing, right? They walk into this room and they feel like because they don't have 1, 2, or 3 on their resume, like very, very specific things. They're like, oh man, like, I don't know, I'm not prepared. But it's like, if you just believe that you can always figure it out, that's where everything starts to change.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so more of on the backstory of how I got started. My resume didn't have much on it. Like it was very basic. And when I did my interview, they kept shooting me like, oh, can you do this, this, and that? In reality, I didn't know how to do it. I was like, yeah, of course. So anytime you walk into any situation, you might not know how to do something, but it's important for you to put yourself in that mindset that no matter what it is, I can do it.
Yes.
If it's some crazy task or, something blew up in my car and I can't pay a mechanic. If you put in your mind that you can fix it yourself, you can. I mean, you have resources, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. Anything you want to do, you can do it. Google, I think, is the best resource ever.
Yeah.
Like, especially with AI now, like you can do anything. I think anything is achievable. And we can go into this later. That's why I don't really believe in courses.
Yeah.
That's another big thing. Like courses for me is like a big
red flag.
Red flag. I mean, I'm sure they provide some value, but it's nothing you can't find on your own.
Totally.
And I think,
I was going to say, I think a lot of people buy a course with the intention of it fixing all of their problems and giving them everything that they need, when in reality, this is somebody else's version of what they think you need.
Exactly.
But only you have the discernment to really know what's relevant to you and what's not.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So, for example, if you're going to buy a course for how to be a software engineer, I mean, sure, there's going to be a lot of useful resources in that course. But again, they pulled a lot of that stuff from online, or they had to learn themselves somehow, right?
Yeah.
Whether maybe they were in a job and they had good mentors. But again, that's a lot of knowledge that you can learn yourself. So I don't think, and a lot of people do these catch-all courses where they, how to get rich in a week. Yeah. I think that's
scammy.
Very scammy. It's very fishy.
Yeah.
If you were to look at some of these course sellers, and I'm not throwing any shots, but if you look at some of these course sellers, they're showing the cool car, the cool watch, But if it comes down to it, God forbid, if they passed away, what would they be handing down?
Yeah, what's their like net worth?
What's their net worth? What's their inheritance? And I'm not saying I'm some extremely rich guy. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if they were to pass something down, are they going to pass down debt, or are they going to pass down assets? Do they have a business? Do they have people on payroll?
Yeah.
There's things like that. Again, everyone's needs are different. If you're buying a course because you want to learn how to make cash flow, sure. If you want to start a business, sure. Again, I don't think that's the way to do it. There's a lot of helpful resources and courses, but again, Instagram, the way it's it is
it's all
now
curated.
It's all like curated bullshit,
yeah.
in my opinion. So
Totally. And I think this really brings up an important conversation around who you're idolizing on social media, or
Agreed,
who you're
yeah.
like, who are you really putting on a pedestal of like, oh my God, this person has everything. Now I have to replicate exactly what they did. Like something that I think both of us are really good at having this mentality of like, everyone's path is different, bro.
Everyone's
like
path is
what
100%
works for
different.
you might not work for me. The only way I'll know is if I filter it through my intuition, my like, do I really feel like this is relevant to me or not? Like why is an undergraduate degree such a waste of time for so many people? Because they're signing up to learn stuff that they don't actually care about or need.
Right.
But
right.
then it's like you're spending all this. It's literally the same
You're spending
thing.
all the time and money and stuff. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, like it's. I think it's really important to have the mentality. And this is the other thing I think with you that is so interesting is you've always had this mentality of like, I don't need anything outside of myself to be successful.
Yeah,
I don't need the
it's
degree.
the same with everyone. I think at their core, every human can share that same, self-belief. Like whether, you want to look good, you can do that. Whether you want to be rich, I think you can play any card in your hand.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The recipe for success, again, like you said, is not the same for everyone. But I want to circle back on what you said about, what was it? Idolizing people.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's really important. I don't think, I think that gets dangerous because when you start to idolize someone, comparison is a thief of joy. Just because you don't have the, crazy Patek Philippe or, AP or watch or Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever it is, you start to compare yourself. And, I do the same thing all the time. I'll be honest. I compare myself to really successful people. And I'm like, why am I not there yet?
Yeah.
That's such a bad thing. And again, this is regurgitated. Everyone knows this. Everyone says this. It's very dangerous to idolize people because I think that takes a shot at your own self-esteem. And that's what you need. You need self-esteem. You need confidence. All of those, you build that within yourself. And you need that. That, to me, my personal recipe for success are those, discipline, confidence, and a few other things. But I think those are very important ingredients for the recipe of success.
Totally. Like, have you ever seen somebody that's super successful that is insecure or like doesn't have any confidence? Like that doesn't really happen.
I actually do see that. Most of them are influencers. They get, they're really confident, but you can just tell like on the inside something is missing.
Yeah.
They're seeking some sort of external validation.
Yeah.
Or getting some sort of reaction from someone. But again, that could also be marketing. So you never know. It's really
everything is
interesting.
optics until proven otherwise, right? When
Yeah,
it comes
everything
to
is
social
optics,
media,
yeah.
like you really don't know until you know.
Yeah.
And that's why also, it is really important. Everything that you see on social media, you have to take it with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, because literally, and also Instagram in particular is a platform made for aesthetics and curation. There's with the exception of, I think personally for me, I try my best to not show up in that way. Like I'll have people in my DMs sometimes that are like, I can tell that they are idolizing me and like kind of putting me on a pedestal because they assume that I have my whole life together because I speak words of wisdom about 1, 2, and 3. But it's like the only reason I'm able to say those things is because I went through it and I grew through it, which you have equal potential to do as well.
Right.
There's nothing that I have or that
That you
I've
can't
accomplished
achieve.
that you can't.
Yeah,
It's the equal, like you said, equal playing field for everybody. And you really have to be able to see it from that way. Like something that you also taught me in particular on the topic of this glamorizing is that there really is nobody that's better than you, right? And I mean, you have to ask the question of what does better really mean? But it's like anything that anybody else has or has accomplished or whatever, because I have equal capacity to do it, there's no reason to compare me to you, right? Like you may be more ahead in that you made the decision to do it and then you did it. But if I decided right now to do it and I committed to it, I can make it work too.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to put anybody else on a pedestal because it's like, I know I got it if I wanted it.
Exactly. Yeah. Just because someone's at a different level than you, you always have to put in your mind like, hey, this guy's doing this, but I think I can do it better. Always think in that way. Even if you don't, necessarily get better than them, you can get close. And in my perspective, I think I can get better at anything than anyone if I put my mind to it.
Yeah.
I think that's a really big, if you look at a characteristic of someone who's successful, I think they put it in their mind that, whatever I see or think I can do it.
I will do it.
Yeah, I will do it somehow.
Totally.
So, and, another thing to me that's really important is, again, we already talked about it, self-esteem and confidence. And when you're in a room, you let others speak.
Yeah.
I think it's very important, to be a likable person, you have to listen.
Yeah.
You always have to listen.
Yeah.
Again, people are very selfish. Humans are very selfish.
Yeah.
I'm very selfish. You're very. At the end of the day, at our core,
We care about our own needs.
We care about our own needs, right? And it gets dangerous when you try and put others' needs above yours. But again, in life, that happens sometimes. But again, it's very dangerous when. What were we saying?
There's like a fine line between listening to people and giving them the space and
Right.
like putting their needs above your own.
Right. So don't
The boundary.
Yeah, when you go into a room, try not to control it with your words as much.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, like you
It's
can
your
control
energy, though.
your energy. You can control a room without really talking. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Because real confidence is quiet. It's not loud.
real confidence is quiet. You know, when you walk into a room, you don't really need to say much. People will notice who you are based on your
energy.
results, your energy, what you bring to the table. For example, if I walk into a meeting, I won't say anything until I know
What you're talking about.
Until I know what I'm talking about. Until I
Yeah.
know when something needs to be said.
Yeah.
Sometimes people try and fill that empty space with a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
And then they kind of lose that status, if you will. They'll
the
lose
respect.
The respect. Yeah.
It's
They'll
like,
lose
do
the
you
aura.
really know what you're talking about?
Yeah. So sometimes you need to be able to. What's the word? I'm like, not self-realization. It's
rein it in, like
what's the word we're looking
not
for?
overcompensate, essentially.
Not overcompensate, but like it's a really unlikable trait when someone doesn't have
Can't read the room.
not read the room, but it's essentially part of that. Read the room.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
Yeah,
Self-awareness,
yeah.
I think, is one of the most important traits that
Totally.
anyone can have.
I want to make a disclaimer, though, because I think there's a difference between self-awareness and self-hatred. I feel like some people call themselves self-aware, but they're really just criticizing everything that they're doing, and that's
Yeah.
keeping them small.
That's a good point,
Whereas
yeah.
really self-awareness is just like recognizing what you're doing and how you're showing up, knowing that you can you can shift it at any
Right,
point. You know,
right.
there's no reason to hate on yourself because again, that just contributes to low self-esteem. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like you do need to, if you want to be a very likable person, if you want to be the kind of person that can charm anyone, like I'll be honest, you guys, my brother is the kind of guy that can make anyone like him. And I'm saying, I'm being so genuine when I say I have never met anybody in my life that has met my brother and not been like, yo, I'm his biggest fan. And I did learn a lot of that from you, of like how to really conduct yourself in a way where people have no choice but to like you. And that is a really big part of it, right? It's like making them feel seen.
Making
It's
them
about
feel
turning the
seen.
spotlight on them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And like asking them questions like, oh, what do you do? It's like most people get it wrong because they are talking about themselves the whole time. It's like
Yeah.
a very self-serving agenda. But it's like when you come from the energy of like, how can I make you feel special and how can I make you feel loved, while also keeping it in the back of my mind that maybe there is not necessarily an agenda, but there's like a certain goal that I have,
Yeah,
right?
right,
That
right.
like I want to kind of accomplish, and getting you to like me is one of like part of that. So that's huge, I think, is
Yeah,
really
listening. If you walk into a room or you're hanging out with your friends and you realize, oh, like I'm the only one talking, or I'm really controlling the conversation, people like they'll start not to like that. They'll be like, okay, like I want to say something.
Yeah, because
you know?
we're selfish.
We're
We wanna
selfish,
say-
yeah,
yeah.
and we want to contribute. You know, making
Yeah.
people feel like they're contributing or making people feel like they're heard or seen. That's really
Yeah.
important because again, we're selfish creatures. You know,
Yeah.
we want to be in the spotlight, right? Regardless. I mean, if you look at my Instagram, for example, it's really low key. Like you mentioned earlier, optics is important to me. It's really important. Like optics are important. But it's important to be able to like call out the bullshit. Like, okay, I have a bunch of pictures of me traveling. Like my Instagram makes it look like I'm traveling all the time.
Yeah.
That's not the case. I'm usually in my room like a hermit, fucking working on something,
Yeah,
or
that's so true.
at the gym. You know, like people
Yeah.
are normal. Every person is normal.
Yeah.
That's really
anybody
important.
that tries to make you think otherwise is just trying to finesse you,
Yeah,
to be honest.
yeah, I
like
agree.
anybody that portrays themselves to be perfect in any way, or like, you know, it's a lie. It's
all,
literally a lie.
it's all bullshit. Like
Everyone's just like you.
everyone is the same. Everyone's a human at the end of the day. Like
Yes.
that's why I don't really idolize many people. I can respect people's accomplishments and what they've done and who they are, but I try not to idolize anyone because I think that
Yeah.
gets really, again, dangerous. It's like
It's so dangerous.
Yeah, like-
because then you always see yourself as less than. Of
Yeah.
like, and you're trying to emulate their energy because
you're trying to
you think that's-
compensate, and
Yeah.
compensation is, you know,
Yeah.
it takes away from who you are. Like you need to focus on who you are, your core values, and work on those. Not
Yes.
not like compensation. Like, oh, I'm not the richest in the room. Well, yeah, try and get there. But again, don't go into every room thinking, oh, I'm the poorest. I'm the poorest in the room or whatever it may be. Try and work on it. And if you need to, trick your mind into believing, oh, I'm delusional.
I'm delusional. You taught me how to
I'm
do
the
that
richest guy in the room, or like, I have bigger goals than everyone else.
Yeah.
Whether it may be true or not, you can trick yourself into thinking you're that guy,
Brainwash is easy.
Yeah.
Literally, whatever you tell yourself over and over, your subconscious mind is going to believe it.
I agree.
But there's something else too that I think you mentioned that's really interesting is like your authentic values. Like you have to know who you are. I think that's also something that both of us have down really well, where the reason why we're able to walk into any room and like, be magnetic or like have everybody's attention or just like be the kind of person that everybody wants to talk to. And this isn't me tooting my own horn. You guys know I'm not like, whatever. But like to be genuine, I think it's because we both have such a solid identity within ourselves of like, I know my personality. I know what I'm like when nobody else is around, right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, I have quirky, like stupid shit that I do or say of like, oh my God, guys, like, like little things about my personality or the types of jokes that I make, for example. And like, same thing with you. Like you've always had kind of like that class clown vibe.
Yeah, like goofy.
You make
I'm goofy. Some people perceive me as the complete opposite. Like, this guy's super serious.
Yeah.
But when they start to get to know me, I'm just like, I'm super goofy.
And funny.
Like, and I think that's important too, because in the workplace, I work with a bunch of older folks.
Yeah.
And I really brought that like goofy vibe to the workforce. Like, I kind of changed the environment completely. Like everyone was dead serious. I would walk into meetings with people who I probably shouldn't even be talking to, and they're at like a much higher level than me career-wise, or, when you look at like
the hierarchy,
like
they're above you.
They're like way above me. And I'll go in there making jokes and, that's how they get, you can break that down. People will start to like you. Like, oh, why is this guy making jokes in this weird situation? Like there's been times at work, things have been on fire and I'm just making a complete joke of the situation. And people like that, like they don't.
You're making it lighter.
You're making it lighter, and I think that's important in life. Like,
and it takes guts to be able to break that tension like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you gotta be able to laugh at yourself at times. There's times, dude, I tried to fix something and I made it 100 times worse. Like I'm no joke. Like there's times at work I thought I fixed something, but in reality I had broken something else and just made it 100 times worse. But again, being able to like laugh at yourself in that situation and bring it back in and be like, okay, I fucked up. Let me try and fix this.
Yeah. And I think that's the difference between self-awareness and self-hatred.
Right.
Like you're self-aware enough to know that you made a mistake and okay, like I made this harder for everybody, but it's not going to a point where you're like beating yourself down because of it and like allowing your self-esteem to suffer.
100%.
Like you're a human being, you can make mistakes. Like people need to be able to come from that space. Whereas I feel like there are a lot of, like if you think about somebody that presents as very like insecure, like there's a lack of confidence, you can literally tell that here's what it is. They have a hard time taking up space.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like you said, when in a meeting, you don't have to speak the whole time, but when you do have something to say and it's of value, you have to be able to show up in that way.
Right.
Like I think that's so, if anybody listening here, like if you feel like you're the kind of person when you walk into a room, you just feel so nervous and shy and like uncomfortable, you just need to build your belief in your own skill set, in your knowledge and what you have to bring to the table, right? Like yourself as a person, and it gets so much easier to show up in a way where everybody likes you too.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
Totally.
Yeah.
There was something else too that I wanted to...
What can we talk about that's fun? Fun stuff.
Fun stuff. Let me see.
This is boring. This could be boring to people, dude. We never know.
We don't want to be boring, you guys. Yeah. We want to be like fun and interesting. Man, I wish you lived in Miami so we could just like run these episodes all the time.
I know.
I feel like you're going to be a fan favorite. I don't know. I just feel that. You guys let me know in the comments.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I could be not boring, but I really don't want to be regurgitating shit that's said all the time on social media because that icks me so much.
Well, I don't know. I feel like the kind of podcast or the kind of social media content that you're seeing is different than the audience that I have.
Hopefully, yeah.
So I think you're probably bringing that perspective to this, which is interesting. But I do have something else actually I want to talk about. And this is something else too that I don't know if I've like really shared this publicly, but there was a time before I got into all of this where I did not believe in being delusional. I believed in being realistic. Gasp. Me being realistic. We joke about this all the time. Like, I'd be like, my brother would be like, I'm gonna do all this crazy shit one day and I'm gonna be super successful. And I would literally roll my eyes and be like, bro,
come back down to earth.
Like, come back down to earth, bro. Like, you gotta set realistic goals. And he would always just look at me and be like, man, one day you're gonna get it. Keep in mind, my brother's 3 years younger than me. Yeah. And this is when like I was in my early 20s in college and whatever. He was always like, dude, of course, like, I'm going to make it happen. I don't know. I don't care how, but it's going to happen. Like, I am so shocked. Obviously, I ended up getting into the being delusional. It literally became my whole personality. That's how I changed my life, right? But like, how have you always innately been delusional? Like, you've always...
Again, that's something I can't even, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, ever since I was little, like...
You just knew. You're him. You're just him.
Yeah, I have no idea, like, what made me know, like, okay, maybe it was all the YouTube I would watch as a kid or seeing other people and being like, oh, you know... Or the daydreaming. I used to do it on the bus.
Daydreaming.
Oh my God. I would take the bus to school. I'd put in my headphones. I'd just start daydreaming scenarios of me, like, you know,
I do that too.
Dude, like pulling up to school and like
Yes.
the crazy whip, or like, you know, walking into a room and everyone's like, holy shit, who's that guy? You know?
Yeah.
I think if you daydream that enough and you really believe it, like, it'll happen eventually somehow. Like, you have to obviously get there, but it'll happen somehow. And it's slowly starting to happen with me. Like, again, I was young with the cool car and stuff.
Yeah.
And guys, I don't have a course to sell or any of that bullshit, so don't worry.
Yeah, he's not even in this space.
I'm not in this space at all. Like, you know, I don't have anything to sell. It's kind of just more conversational. But I always dreamed of having the super cool car, being that cool fucking Batman guy. What's that movie? American Psycho, like shit like that. You know what I mean? Like just being mysterious.
You fantasize.
Yeah, you just fantasize. And I think those fantasies can become a reality if you work hard enough. And if you really start to believe it and shift your mentality and, you know, you change your personal mantra, like, I'm that guy, like, you'll eventually become that guy. Like, and I'm still working towards that, you know. This could be a freaking -500 aura podcast for me. But again, I can rebuild that, or it could be a +1,000. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it at the end of the day. Like, that's another thing too. I think that's really important is like, if you look at this moment from a year from now, how much is it really going to matter? And it might not matter at all. Like, if you had a really bad interaction with someone, like, let's say it's a girl you like, you know, and you completely bomb it. You go up to her and she's like, ew, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
You know, if you look, put it in perspective. In a year from now, you're not even going to remember that happened. It's not going to matter.
So insignificant.
So whatever you do, just do it. You know, don't worry about the repercussions later. Of course, keep it legal, right? But like, if it's something you think is huge, put it into perspective. 5, you know, maybe a few months, 10 years from now, it's not going to matter.
No, it won't.
And if it will, it'll show. Like, it'll probably be something good.
Yeah.
You know, it all depends. So
that's why I think it's so, like, the law of detachment really is everything.
Yeah.
Like, so many people don't take the risk or they don't take the step because they're so afraid of losing something. But if you're coming from a place of being afraid and you're making a decision out of fear, the only thing you're going to get out of it is
something negative.
Energy, something negative.
Negative energy, yeah.
Let's give more context to anybody who doesn't really know.
Essentially, we had built this app and we were the only guys working on it, and we were the only guys that can do it, especially at the speed that we were doing it. And once we had finished the app, you know, it got green lighted by, you know, a bunch of higher level folks, if you would say. And right after that, we were like, okay, we're done. Like, we're leaving. And that kind of forced their hand. So we were able to partner with the company that's on the contract and, you know, take it the step further. So
I think the key thing here is to know your value and to know your worth and be willing to walk away if it's not being honored because you know that you'll be fine otherwise.
Right. 100%. Know your value, and understanding how to build leverage and when to exercise that leverage is very important. Yeah.
So that's so freaking hilarious that you came in.
Act the role.
Act like you're there.
Act like you're that person.
Yeah.
Maybe we can change it, right? Because if you already told them to do that.
No, I think this is a good reminder, actually.
Okay, yeah. So put yourself, go in the car, whatever. If you're riding the bus, the train, whatever, on the plane, put your headphones in, listen to your favorite song, whatever it may be. Fantasize yourself in that scenario, but in the back of your mind, think it's real and achievable.
Know that it's going to happen.
And know that it's going to happen.
Yes.
Again, you can't just sit there and be like, oh, it's going to happen on its own. You know, you gotta take those steps, but just completely fantasize everything. Act like you're that person, you know, whether it's your, you know, you have a scene in a movie that you really like and you're like, oh, I wish that was me.
Just think about what inspires you and
and really dream it out in your head, but think it's real in the back of your mind. I think that's something that I always do. Anytime I dream about anything, it's like, that shit is right now, you know, it's the next door over.
Yes.
If I open that door, it'll be there.
Yes, totally. All right, you guys heard it here first. That's what you got to start doing. You need to be delusional, get in the driver's seat or wherever you are and just let yourself fantasize and have fun with imagining yourself doing all these things, knowing that not only is it going to happen, but that you already have everything that you need within you to make it happen.
Right.
So with that, Z, I want to thank you so, so much from the bottom of my heart for coming onto this podcast, for sharing your wisdom. I'm sure we'll have a part 2 with him, but if you guys want him to come back, if there's any specific things you want him to talk about, let me know in the comments. Is there anything else you want to leave us
No,
with?
shout out to the crew.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, doing really great work here.
In the background.
Again, congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
And I'm really proud of you.
Appreciate that. And with that, we will see you guys in next week's episode. Bye.